Welcome to the YouTube channel for the HR M&A Roundtable. I'm Dr. Clint Kendrick, chair of the HR M&A Roundtable and author of the HR Practitioner's Guide to Mergers and Acquisitions Due Diligence. The HR M&A Roundtable is a forum for practitioners teaching practitioners how people, leadership, and culture drive M&A deal value. We provide a variety of opportunities for HR M&A practitioners to connect with one another, including an annual conference, webinars, a Women in HR M&A mastermind group, and of course, roundtables. I started the HR M&A Roundtable because peer learning is an invaluable resource, especially if you're new to the HR M&A space. As an experienced practitioner and HR M&A leader at a Fortune 500 company, I continue to rely on the Roundtable to stay up to date with the latest trends and thinking in HR M&A. You can learn more about the HR M&A Roundtable by visiting www.mdaroundtable.com, where you can find information on our organization and the many resources we provide for HR M&A practitioners. While you're there, sign up for our mailing list so you can stay informed about our upcoming events.
And welcome to everybody who's online. My name is Clint Kendrick, and I'm the chair of the HR M&A Roundtable. And I'm really excited that we have this opportunity to learn about virtual onboarding in the M&A context today. Onboarding M&A employees is already difficult. I've done a bunch of acquisitions in my career, and it's probably the thing that is the most challenging employee-facing event is working through the announcement to onboarding process for those employees. If you think about it, you've got a bunch of employees that they have to trust you, but they don't necessarily know you. You're asking them to work in jobs that they didn't apply for, and they may not even want to work for your company. I've had a number of employees give that feedback that if I wanted to work for your company, I would have applied for a job at your company. And it makes for a very interesting and difficult situation as is. And now we folded in this new level of complexity with COVID-19 and all of the shutdowns and lockdowns that are happening in various states. And a lot of people believe that this will become our new normal, not just during these shutdown periods, but also longer term as we look at the way that business is done. So as I looked around my network and thought about the folks that I know who had some expertise in really helping with virtual onboarding, the folks at Xpand jumped to mind. This is essentially a business that they do, and I'm really excited to have them here for this webinar. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speaker, and then we're going to do a brief video to talk about what Xpand does and why they really are the right folks to be talking to us about virtual onboarding. So I'm really excited to have Kalyan here. He's been part of our roundtable community since very close to the beginning, and his goal with creating Xpand was to make sure that employees are job ready from day one. He has a number of years of experience in a number of different industries, and is a graduate of the University of Florida as well as the Wharton School of Business. And as far as free time activities, Kalyan's a tennis player and has gotten hooked on The Last Dance documentary, which I'm going to have to add to my viewing list because I've heard a lot of good things about it from other folks. So I'm watching a little more TV than normal, Kalyan, so I'll have to take that as a recommendation. So I'm just going to share a brief video here that covers what Xpand does and why Xpand really has a good platform to tell us some of these best practices in virtual onboarding.
Xpand is a premier cloud-based digital onboarding platform serving enterprises with bespoke employee experiences. Negative first impressions cost. Approximately 20% of new hires will leave within 90 days. 70% of M&As fail due to lack of cultural integration. 40 million plus a year costs are due to employee attrition and lost productivity. Xpand creates an immersive joiner experience. With our automated welcoming, we nurture employee engagement. Employees can complete payroll, tax, data sheets, and benefit forms. Data can be collected and stored before day one and transferred from Xpand to your system. Automatically trigger and automate non-HR business with ID creation, computer provisioning, and facilities access. Create and manage different types of relevant onboarding experiences. Send communications to keep managers in the loop. See real-time onboarding progress through the dashboard. Nudge managers to complete tasks. Invest in digital onboarding to enjoy 50% or more decrease in time and costs, 15% or more decrease in 90-day attrition, 20 points or more increase in employee NPS. Xpand also provides platform-agnostic integration, data privacy, and the ability to be deployed at scale globally. You can reach us at info@xpand.io. We're just a click away.
Okay. Well, Kalyan, welcome. And again, thank you so much for being willing to come share your expertise with the world of virtual onboarding with us.
Thank you, Clint. Hey all, at the outset, I just want to thank Brenda and Clint for organizing this. And I would like to first begin with expressing our gratitude to all our healthcare and essential services professionals who are extending their service in these tough times. This pandemic is a black swan event that has dramatically altered the way we operate personally and physically. So just for the interest of the bandwidth, I will try to switch off my camera. We had like some bandwidth issues from past few days, and I'll just go into the content. Can you guys hear me clearly? Clint, can you hear? I know
sure can.
Okay, great. So pandemic or not, like flexible working is becoming a new normal, and remote workforce we feel like is here to stay. The recent Upwork's Future Workforce report predicts that 73% of all the teams will have remote workers by end of 2028. And there's also a rise of 44% in remote working since last 5 years. And it's good for us to say that with confidence that the shift to the virtual ways of working is here to stay. And as HR professionals, we need to revisit our people strategy to attract, engage, and retain talent virtually. For this one, I will broadly divide this into 4 different sections. We will first begin with looking at the new hires lens, and then talk about how organizations can create the first impression for remote workforce. We will then zoom in into the look at how virtual onboarding supports the M&A scenarios, and at the end we will focus on the factors to consider to make this virtual onboarding strategy successful within your organization. I would love to make this interactive, and we will take up questions and inputs throughout the session. And we also have a few of my team members who are on the call, and then they will chime in, especially for those which are tough ones. So a key business imperative of the talent engagement is creating the lasting positive impressions to attract and retain talent. And it begins at a much early in the employee life cycle at recruitment and new hire onboarding stages. And it is critical for all the HR leadership now to create virtual candidate and employee experience that ensures job readiness from day one of the new hire. Of course, a memorable experience design is an outcome of keeping the end user needs at fore and begins the understanding of the new hire mindset. Clint, can you advance to the first slide, if you may? Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you. I see that. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So studies indicated that heightened anxiety in new hires about starting a new job. Why are new hires anxious? The root cause lies in the experience of the change. Any change in the best of times cause anxiety due to element of uncertainty. A job change definitely is a mix of loss of familiarity and uncertainty about the future. Some key factors that play on the minds of new hires while joining a new organization, and we separated into the tangible ones and the intangible factors. The tangible factors I could think of is like administrative aspects of mandatory documentation completion, the background checks, initiation of the background checks, making sure the payroll and benefits are enabled, access the system, access the organization systems, and providing assets. And few intangible ones are anxiety regarding the nature of the job, work environment, understanding the culture of the organization, dealing with a new manager, team members, and unease from the being unfamiliar with the people and the new process. This sense of apprehension is compounded with remote work, with issues around children and I will just go into the one use case which we recently did. One of our clients is in the financial industry, and they have reported the low scores from their new hires on Gallup Q12 survey. And we're experiencing high early attrition in year one amongst the new hires. They wanted us to address this effectively by eliminating hassles for new hire on important but yet administrative elements, including pay, benefits, enrollment, statutory compliance requirements, organization introduction, and leadership overview, freeing their mind to focus on their work goals and get productive from day one. Shifting to a digital onboarding experience allowed the new hire to go through a structured and a seamless to complete all the mandatory formalities and paperwork required. It enhanced certainty around administrative aspects ahead of start date and be job ready from day one. The organization communicates around culture, leadership vision, values and work environment, helped provide cultural clarity, and it resulted in better engagement and feedback scores from the new hires. Primarily on the first two Q2 engagement questions. The two questions I think we were surveyed. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. So actually, I got an interesting question in the chat, which is, do you think that there are any generational differences in how employees feel the anxiety of starting a new job? And I think if I'm reading into this, are there different ways that we work with millennials who might be more used to a virtual setting than maybe some of our boomers or Gen Xers who may not be the digital natives?
Yes, we have seen it. Obviously, millennials want to be do things at their own time, and we have seen a difference on it. And what we have learned is adding the digital experience alone is not enough, and then there is definitely a orientation which need to happen on top of the digital onboarding piece, and the hybrid of it always works, is what we have seen based on our clients.
Great. Another question that we have that's come into the chat is asking, when you look at creating an onboarding program, are there one or two key pieces of anxiety that the program should help to address?
I mean, I would say like new hire integration with the team, and uncertainty and like shifts in joining schedules, I would say. A few of them I can think of.
Terrific. And if anybody has questions, just please go ahead and send those to me in the chat. Okay, I don't have any more on the anxiety. I think that that's something that those of us who work in M&A are certainly familiar with, working with a group of employees who don't quite know what's going on, and we definitely know that we need to manage that uncertainty that's coming up. Oh, so a question about furloughs. So when we look at furloughs or divestments, you know, one of those questions came up. I know that that's a little bit different than an onboarding experience, but do you have thoughts about ways that folks could do offboarding rather than onboarding and work with that process?
Yeah, I mean, we believe that, okay, offboarding is as important as onboarding because we wanted to maintain the brand and we want to have to like exit them with a better experience because they have put their heart and soul for whatever time they have spent in the organization. Yes, and that does create like sense of community within the organization which I worked, and we also have worked with organizations where they have provided alumni portals, like where they can actually have like a talent management portal where like they can actually engage with the existing employees and stuff, and also see any new job postings which the company has, and because they've already been worked there, and most companies we have seen that okay, there's an increased trend in bringing back the talent when the time comes.
Great, that makes sense. And then one other question that has come up is, are there some things that you can point to that you could do both in person and virtually when handling the onboarding experience? Just a couple of general guides that seem to straddle both the online world and the real world.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is something which I plan to cover later in the presentation, Clint. And
okay.
If there are further questions, then I'll definitely try to address it.
Perfect.
If that makes sense.
Okay, great. Well, why don't we go ahead on to the next point?
Great. So now we've dealt with the anxiousness of the new hire. So what I'll do is I'll just spin it to 180 degrees for organizations, how to create these first impressions. And we'll also deal with creating these first impressions without seeing these employees face to face. You know, we are all like social beings and then strive for connectedness. The virtual onboarding process allows an organization the opportunity to communicate to the much softer elements of vision, culture, and people through technology. And we think that okay, the time between the offer and the joining is the right opportunity to keep the prospective hires engaged and create a positive first impression. And the business value what we can expect includes lower offer dropouts, lower nascent early attrition, and engaged workforce leading to the enhanced productivity. We have worked with the India-based large enterprise who experience offer drop and renege rate around 25%, which means that out of 100 candidates who have expected the offer, only 75 of them showed up, joined the company, and leading to the increased recruitment costs to buffer more candidates to meet the requirements and rework on almost practically 1/4 of the positions that were offered. To address this critical concern, the pre-boarding hiring manager connect, the buddy assignments feature that any digital onboarding solution enable was leveraged proactively. Engage early in the new hire, forming the early social connections and getting the right attention and creating a positive impression about the organization culture of caring. This is also allayed apprehensions and created a sense of familiarity amongst the new hires. Learning content focusing on leadership commitment to make a difference to a society culture of innovation and respecting diversity led to enhanced net promoter scores, like reduced drop-off rate, higher referrals, positive Glassdoor comments, to name a few. And to draw a parallel, again to the Gallup Q12, enabling early social connections allows an organization, I think there's a question 5, I would say, like does a supervisor or someone at work seem to care about you as a person? And you've done extremely well through an effective buddy program. And the other question which actually impacted to this one is, do you have a best friend at work? I'll pause now to see if you have any questions that I could respond on this topic before I jump into the virtual onboarding.
Great. So again, if anybody has questions, please feel free to go ahead and put those into the chat. One question that has come up, and I'm actually seeing a few folks pointing to this, is you've mentioned buddy programs and you've mentioned the impact on the Q12 of having a best friend at work, feeling like the supervisor really cares. Can you talk a little bit about some of the best practices you've seen for buddy programs? And one thing that I'm curious about that I'll add to this question is, how do you think supervisors can get involved in a buddy program so that it really demonstrates that they care about the onboarding employee's experience?
Sure. What we've seen is like most of the times the buddy program, a big buddy is somebody who is not part of the team and stuff. And the managers who have actually assigned a buddy right after the candidate accepted the offer, and then getting to know the person about whether he's relocation and every aspect of it, and then providing us guidelines to the big buddy on the different aspects of it, getting to providing a detailed profile information of the new hire, understanding exactly where they're coming from and which organization, what type of organizations they have worked in the past, and obviously this big buddy knows exactly like what organizations like he'll be working in, the group he'll be working in, the challenges, and then providing that clarity to them. Always we have seen like great results. And we have seen organizations where hiring manager becomes a buddy, and we don't have the data yet with respect to the effectiveness of a manager being a buddy and someone outside of the team being a buddy, not yet. And then when hopefully in pretty soon, like in 6 to 7 months, we'll be able to provide the data.
Well, that's interesting. I haven't I haven't heard of a manager being a buddy. That's definitely a different approach.
Yeah.
One question that we have is, so it's asking, how are jobs restructured to accommodate for attrition? So I'm going to read a little bit into this and just ask, we've got a lot of companies that in light of the pandemic have cut their workforces. And so you've got people joining into jobs where either somebody's quit or been furloughed, and there's still a lot of the same work to be done, but the job has changed, and the manager may not necessarily understand the scope of the new job or may not be familiar with managing that scope. So any tips or practices for managing either brand new jobs or jobs that have changed in scope so that onboarder can feel like they have an opportunity for success?
Interesting question. I think I have Jaya should be on this call. I think I would say I think if you can unmute Jaya, if she's there, I think she'll be able to better answer this question. It's an interesting one.
And unfortunately, I am having some technical problems. I've been working on the back end here. Actually, Jaya, it looks like we might be able to hear you. Do you want to give that a try? No, it looks like we're still having that challenge, and I apologize. We're seeing on the back end if we can fix that.
No worries. So can we address this at the end of the session? Clint? Is it okay?
Absolutely,
On this one?
absolutely.
Okay.
So Susan, we'll hang on to that till the end.
Yeah.
Yep. No worries. Well, why don't we go ahead to the next section then, and we'll see if we can get Jaya unmuted here.
Sure. No worries. So the next section is primarily what are the tips we can ensure virtual onboarding supports employees who are joining M&A activity. Okay. So we have seen digitized onboarding which leverages technology, keeping employee experience. Can you guys hear me?
Sure can.
Yeah. Digital onboarding which leverages technology, keeping the whole employee experience at the center, whether it could be gig workers, like hiring through M&A activity, remote workers, or contract workforce. I know the world may be in the grip of pandemic, but we see that corporate leaders are already thinking about what will happen when the situation stabilizes. And research finds that M&A activity will be high on their agenda. We have seen the recent Ernst & Young survey done actually this month, which finds that 56% of the global executives polled will actively pursue M&A in next 12 months. I will chime into the experience we had working with one of the large enterprises we engaged. It was experiencing the high attrition of the workforce that was acquired inorganically. Practically more than 50% of the top performers from the M&A deals with key skills exited within 2 years of the acquisition. This did not give them sufficient time to build an internal talent pool by leveraging the expertise of the acquired workforce. The impact was, despite high deal costs, and there wasn't enough ROI for the company. The internal surveys which we done reveal lack of sense of belonging as a key reasons for this exit. An early head start, we believe, is the key to the success of this. The challenge was obviously how to create a consistent and a meaningful integration when they had to onboard large number of in a short span globally. We believe that a thoughtful, well-executed onboarding process was designed, which included welcome address from their leaders, bringing clarity to the organization hierarchy, providing custom content on the value of the organization, places on the skills of the acquired workforce, and how those skills will benefit them. Cultural integration and key environment information is definitely useful. And I mentioned before, the buddies with the existing organizations to help the new hire workforce assimilate and integrate effectively would be also a key. We also see the structured learning program integrated with their LMS systems help towards this need. I would not say all of the steps have been effective, we implemented it right away, but we have progressed almost in first 4 months we have provided these features, and these steps have actually turned around the workforce retention. And most surveys have around 75% of the respondents saying communicating with the employees actually and combining the corporate cultures are the most important factors for the post-merger success. We believe that with rising levels of apprehensions on job stability post-COVID, especially in an M&A scenario, digital onboarding now more than ever, we should involve hiring managers in the virtual process in ways never before. Managers can take early ownership, like I said, assign buddies or mentors, and suggest networks to connect to help them navigate to their new role successfully. Managers can provide even learning assignments or tasks, as well as monitor the new hire's completion of assignments. Digitization does help managers to get a real view of each new hire's assignments, progress through onboarding progress, enabling them to intervene when needed to keep their new hires on track, and sending messages of engagement and would inspire greater engagement. The key element that can help in this cultural integration is the social recommendation engine, which can prompt and nudge the acquired workforce to connect with the employees within the organizations who have similar backgrounds, come from the same location, schooling, universities, and even interests. And this, we believe that can form positive connections ahead of joining the firm for the successful merger. So Clint, should we just go to the Q&A, or should I just jump into the next section?
You know, I have actually a few questions that have come up that I'd love to get your take on, and we now have Jaya unmuted. So thank you for your patience with that.
Thank you for that.
Great, we're glad to have you. So one of the questions that's come in is, how long do you think a virtual onboarding process should take? And you know, I've talked with colleagues in the past about the difference between onboarding as a process versus orientation as an event. You know, so in your experience, how long should the onboarding process take when conducted virtually?
So let me maybe give that a shot, right? So a virtual onboarding process, it just starts from the day the hire actually joins the organization. While you could have a lot of processes and administrative hassles taken care of before they actually enter the workforce, the actual onboarding starts from the day one. And the first 30 days are really crucial, especially to form the first positive impressions that would be useful for an employee to actually decide whether he or she wants to continue with the organization. So I think a good 30-day window and dip checks at 60 or 90 days to see how they are faring will be a great strategy to adopt for organizations.
Terrific. So that brings us to there's actually a couple of questions here that kind of feed off of that. So I'm going to run with thinking about day one events in a virtual onboarding world. You know, it's not uncommon in M&A for, you know, a couple of HR folks and some business leaders to fly out and be there on site to give everybody a warm welcome. How have you seen that successfully shifted to a virtual model?
I think the virtual collaboration tools, I think today are the most effective way to ensure that the human touch is not missed out in any kind of merger scenario as well. I guess it's also a huge cost saving that an organization can benefit today. You don't have to fly out your people out there, but you can actually ensure that you have more frequent virtual collaboration tools leveraged to do the connections with your newly onboarded merged workforce. And that is should be a mandatory part of your day one. And the day one should not just include a lot of exercises or just the one-way talk or conversation that happens through a virtual setup, but you can actually have a lot of whiteboarding, gamification, and other interesting, experiential onboarding exercises that you can build as part of that journey, which will keep the group engaged and not make it a monotonous one-way conversation.
So that actually leads into another thing that I've seen, and there's a question around this. When you think about using training to support onboarding, right, there's training fatigue sets in. You know, people get overwhelmed with just, course after course after course. And I imagine that adding virtual onboarding, virtual one-on-one meetings to that could lead to even more fatigue. So how do we end up, making that interesting? You mentioned a few things with gamification and, interactive practices, but do you have any, anything that you would strongly recommend as a, just a real tangible way to make that, to make that effective?
I think what the workforce today values is flexibility. And especially, when new joiners or new hires join, they're just as much as they are anxious, they're actually also very positive and have this entire curiosity to learn when they, onboard. So we need to tap on that curiosity factor and ensure that not just you can actually start using virtual reality tools today, right? Which are the new game changers when it comes to learning, because you need to have a plethora and a good mix which adopt to the different learning styles that your new hires might have. So people who really like classroom training could benefit from virtual sessions. The same training needs to be gamified for people who want to do it at their own pace and enjoy challenges and reaching milestones. And people who are visual can really benefit from a VR kind of technology being adopted for their learning interventions. So an organization needs to look at a workforce and customize their training, the same learning in content to be available in different mediums, and some really thrive when you actually put them on a project, and you should be able to give those options that people can flexibly play around with to meet and align with their own learning styles and needs. And the second thing that I've seen in most organizations is they want to ensure that all the training has to get completed within the first 30 days or maybe 60 days. While it might be an organization's ask, it is important for us to ensure that we pace out the learning in such a way that it really allows the new joiner to assimilate what exactly they are learning, and then extend it to a larger time frame. And those could really be useful in the long run.
And just add to that point, we also have seen, Clint, that bite-sized learning we have seen great results in that. Like what I mean by that is like having these sessions like between 15 to 20 minutes rather than like a 1 hour long session. So anything beyond like 15 minutes of a regular classroom sessions, we have seen like great traction on those bite-sized learning.
Great. So continuing on that thread, so how do you manage cultural differences that might come up with trying to manage these different onboarding experiences, especially with people from different parts of the world?
So cultural differences are the norm today, if you ask me, because organizations are really going global. Today we have the companies really tapping to a very talent pool of not just diversity, but people with disabilities or people with different communities joining the workforce. So it's not while cultural integration requires an intentional strategy and effort and commitment that the leadership needs to communicate extensively from time to time to the entire workforce. And especially it becomes, like you said, pretty prominent in a merger and acquisition scenario where the culture of organizations and the ways of working need to kind of get aligned. So in that scenario, it becomes much more important for leadership commitment to be continuously reinforced. Second one is to be inclusive, ensure that the first line managers, in the way they integrate with the new teams that are joining them, are inclusive. Small things on a daily basis, ensure that their opinions are valued, they're asked for, and they're made to feel comfortable, and also including them in the engagement or the fun activities in an intentional manner will really help ensure that cultural differences are made, or the lines are blurred between those differences, and the new merged workforce or acquired workforce feels at home in the organization.
And just add to that, we have also seen the data shows that, okay, with respect to like nudges, with respect to regional onboarding readiness and stuff, does change from region to region. And if you have an onboarding solution which basically can cater based on practically any of the new hire attributes, that would provide a lot more flexibility to build this onboarding system and scale. And we have seen that through our surveys with respect to the the kind of a content actually they actually did the high ratings and stuff. So an onboarding solution which can adapt to like any region, like you can actually cater it to a particular region, a particular job profile, even within the region, would definitely reap benefits.
Great. So a couple of questions that maybe aren't specific to the M&A context, but just more general. We've got a lot of folks that are on the roundtable who are not full-time HR M&A folks, and I think there's a lot of interest in the topic in general. So can you help out with, in addition to feeling less high touch, less hands-on as we're bringing people on board, what are some of the other key onboarding challenges organizations are facing with the sudden virtual shift?
I would say getting assets to them, bringing the assets to them, because right now, like everything is the whole world is practically in a lockdown mode, has been a challenge, and we have seen them addressing it in different ways, and some allowing their personal assets to be used, and some organizations have actually figured out a way to like ship it, but obviously even the shipment has been delayed because of this whole COVID. And we are also seeing like organizations incorporating virtual desktops too, like where the companies provide like a virtual desktop, and all they require is sign into this virtual desktop to go through this onboarding process.
Yeah. So by assets, you're referring primarily to laptops, tablets, phones, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
I'm curious, I know some organizations really like their swag, right? The mouse pads, stress balls, T-shirts, that kind of thing. I imagine that's probably impacted as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and additionally, I think this being really a disruptive change, what people are experiencing is a lot of anxiety, stress, and also some amount of concerns over the future, right? Not just the existing employees, the new hires as well, about their continuity with the organization. A lot of organizations, I think today, have started a lot of wellness sessions to ensure that the mental and the physical well-being of employees is taken care of virtually, and the right tips, etc., are also sent across to people so that they can keep their balance going during this time. Yes, and we have a guest saying that you have electronic gift cards, and that's a great opportunity to pick out their swag. Yes, thank you for that.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Well, I know that there's one more area to cover, and there are a lot of great questions, and I've tried to capture all of them, but I'm going to move us to the next question here, or the next section here, and then hopefully we'll be able to pick up some of these other questions as we get close to wrapping up.
So this is the final section of it, like in my presentation, and what we'll try to cover is like the key things you should consider when designing the virtual onboarding experience. Like all the success stories were great, but we learned a lot from our failures. One learning experience was with the client who approached us to deploy the onboarding solution as a part of their talent management goals for the year, which was to digitize the HR process. We were happy to deploy, and we started the integration work, only to realize that digitization was not even part of the IT or the talent acquisition goals. And what it translated to was, on the ground, was integration with the IT, recruitment, background check systems were not the priority for those functions. And it was an uphill task for us. The approach took turn with our solution being standalone feature, and more personnel were added to the firm to manage the data migration in the other tools, which takes away from the whole key benefit of a client should enjoy with cost and time savings. Within 1 year, we weren't surprised when the contract was not extended. And we had a candid conversation with the leadership. The learning we gathered was the downstream change management that involves adoption of the system by hiring managers, buddies, and the teams across the hierarchy had not happened. The solution was launched in a single organization-wide mailer, but downstream championing with training and advocacy wasn't part of the strategy. As leaders, it will help to keep the following aspects, which I'm going to discuss, while designing the virtual onboarding strategy that meets the organization needs. We believe that, like, first one is having a very, very clear business imperatives. What are the issues you want to address? And what are the outcomes you want to achieve with onboarding? Take time to think beyond the process benefits of the digitization and see if you can consider the strategic benefits you want to achieve. Having clarity about what you want to achieve through the lens of engagement, productivity, or retention, we believe is critical. The second point would be meeting the new hire expectations, and this will be a key in this today's tech-savvy, millennial-focused. It's almost practically we are working 24/7. They expect the experience to be intuitive, personalized, almost like consumer-grade experience, which gives them flexibility to interact with the content wherever and whenever they want. And this reality requires HR leaders to rethink how they deliver this onboarding content, in our opinion. And simply taking into the whole traditional learning material, like static PowerPoint presentations, documents, manuals, and just migrating them to a digital platform wouldn't cut. The whole content must be reimagined and delivered in ways that just align with the learning styles of the digital natives. And of course, leveraging techniques like gamification and interactivity can increase engagement and ultimately bring the effectiveness of the onboarding program. And the third point which I want to address is finally the change management. Adopting the digital onboarding is about more than just launching a platform, and it requires a new mindset. Investing in holistic change management at the outset is really essential. And we believe that without this transformation, a platform can simply become a data repository rather than a powerful tool for driving this engagement. What this means like bringing people together across cross-functional teams and integrate the range of processes with the digital onboarding solution. This includes talent acquisition, asset provisioning, facilities, finance systems, and process should be involved right from the beginning. And of course, this requires advocacy from the senior leadership. And having executive sponsors and educating them on the strategic benefits of this digital onboarding is essential to achieve this buy-in. Periodic updates on the business benefits achieved and gathered and responding stakeholder feedback are critical for maintaining support. Consider the solution typically that will help you scale and who can go globally and in an agile manner. And obviously adopting a digital-first mindset and deploying the whole onboarding technology that offers maximum flexibility, I would say, like in automation, integration capabilities will position you to realize the game-changing improvements in this whole employee engagement, motivating employees, speed to productivity, the whole bringing loyalty and the retention. I'll be happy to take any questions that you may have.
I have a couple here that I'm going to blend into sort of one large question. So I'm getting a sense from just some of the comments I've seen in the chat that
there's quite a few folks who see this as the future of onboarding, right? Moving to a virtual model, pandemic or not, is just the way that the world is working. But organizational leaders, they just don't necessarily see the value yet. If I'm an HR leader trying to move my organization, nudge my organization to go in a more virtual direction, here's where the question comes in. How do I build my business case for that? So what is the business value the organization can derive from the shift to the digital onboarding process? That's part one. And then part two is about measurement. So what are some of the metrics that I should look at to help sell the business case of a move virtual to my leaders who might be resisting?
Okay, so maybe I'll take the first section of that, and I'll leave the metrics to Kalyan.
Sure.
So when employee experience is at the forefront in any kind of HR process design that you see these days, employees are the competitive advantage in a world where technology, information, and data is available globally and at your fingertips. Retention, attraction, engagement of employees is the key to ensure that your top talent is there, and the war for talent, and you as an organization are in the forefront in the war for talent that you see today. And that is the right business case for HR leaders to build. Definitely look at what the business value of a direct, a superlative employee experience would bring for you. It correlates tangibly and intangibly into great client experience, because a motivated and engaged workforce, right from the stage they join the company and continue their journey with the organization, will actually bring about and add value. In addition to that, some of the quick areas that HR leaders can start looking at is the lower offer dropouts that you see, where candidates accept the offer but they eventually decide not to join. Lower year one attrition of talent, because they do not see themselves being culturally fit, or that uncertainty is so high that they want to look at other organizations to join. Third is enhanced productivity measures that will from day one, that a virtual onboarding process can actually help enable, would be some of the key business cases and data that leaders can leverage on. And most recently, I think the phenomenon of employee ghosting or renege is also increasing in the workforce, and reduction in those behaviors can also be certain business scenarios that HR leadership can craft into their business case while making a effective pitch to adopt virtual onboarding as a strategy.
Great, thank you. You mentioned a couple of metrics in there, people following through, completing, increased productivity. Are there any others, just to follow up on part two of the question?
And enhance this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Kalyan. Please.
So I would say feedback from your new hires, I would say. And NPS scores is one. And new hire endorsement on organization practices in social media platforms is also, we are seeing that a good metric to track in Glassdoor and LinkedIn, any other social media tools.
Great. So there have been a few questions that I wasn't able to follow up on, and I'm just noticing the time. And I promised to get back to a question about, if I'm a manager who has either a new job because I've had some attrition and I've needed to combine jobs, or there's been some job crafting done and I've just got an unusual or new job. Any tips for how I might engage an employee who's coming into that kind of situation through a virtual onboarding process?
That's a great question, and I think it's a real uncharted territory that we are facing this situation today. What is important is a new hire comes in thinking about a certain job description that was explained to him or her during the hiring process. And today with this disruption, like you rightly said, the job description would have really changed. Authenticity is the key element that a manager needs to bring to the fore to ensure that the new hire understands the shift that has happened and therefore what he or she can expect. Typically, new hires really don't get their goals defined or clarified or put in, documented in their performance systems, even after 6 months of their joining the company. This needs to change. Actually having that candid conversation and authentic conversation about the change in the business needs and thereby the change in the job description and responsibilities is one thing that new managers can do, and set goals about how the outcomes need to be delivered. Enhancing clarity, of course, leads to better new hire engagement and positivity. Second that they could do is ensure that the learning required is enabled for the new hires, because they come with a certain competency and skill, and with the changed job description, it requires new skills to be embraced and adopted. So the manager needs to be able to be a mentor, a coach, and also ensure that there is a clear-cut learning journey crafted for a new hire with this changed responsibilities to help them be successful in the firm.
Great.
I hope that answered.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for watching this presentation by the HR M&A Roundtable. Please subscribe to our channel so you can be the first to learn when we add new content that will help you in your M&A journey. And be sure to join our mailing list by visiting www.mandaroundtable.com.